Hello everyone, this is Dr. Hurd and this is BUSA 6621, Executive Perspectives in Leadership. And welcome to Chapter 9, Authentic Leadership. I think this chapter and this topic will resonate with many of you as it's kind of what it is today when we think about a leader, how we kind of look at leaders and how they should be. Authentic leadership comes to mind. So let's take a look. So when we think about authentic leadership, what I think about is so that please don't be a robot. Like I want to see your true self, your human self, your genuine self, your authentic self. And it's what happens when that leader stops pretending to be that kind of corporate superhero or corporate stereotype of what they think a leader should be. And they just show up naturally. They just are who they are, warts and all, as they help others get through a particular journey, achieve particular objectives, and more. So instead of flexing power or hiding behind jargon, they actually stop. They think before reacting. That's key. You're going to hear me talk about that in this deck. They own their choices. So there's a sense of ownership. There's a sense of distrust. They tell the truth even when it's hard. Even when it's hard, it's that, I'm going to exhibit character even when no one is watching kind of approach. They make everyone feel safe and empowered. And they are absolutely there to help others. And they believe others can grow stronger through their example. So they tend to be transparent. They tend to be grounded. They're those folks that you just can point to and say, I trust them and I would follow them. Authentic leadership. So like we've done in the past, we've got some key learning objectives. What is it? What's authentic leadership? How does it work? And is it good? What are the strengths? What's the not so good, the criticisms? And then how would we actually use it? So when we think about authentic leadership and what is it, I want to start with why is it? Where did it come from? How is it something that is now favored? And it's relatively a new leadership theory. Like 2003, 2005 is when it actually had a name and it started to get studied. But when you think about what's happened in the last few years, in the last 20, 25 years, it's been really interesting. You look at the follow-up and the destruction of 9/11, still kind of reeling from all of that, climate change crisis, increasing global conflicts, the civil unrest resulting from incidents of racial injustices, the economic, health, and social crises that came from the COVID pandemic, and then just social media. The rapidly changing technology, when you think of social media and then you add AI to that, everything feels fast and hard and difficult, and you're looking for something to ground yourself. And so there is that necessity to find someone that you believe that can lead, that has that true, honest, authentic spirit to lead. Then further, you have Gen Z, who is coming into the market very, very strong. They're already employed. They are changing how people are thinking in the workplace and more. And there was a particular study in 2022 that said they are especially, given everything that I've just said, are especially impacted by the social, civil, and leadership unrest that they have seen. And they've said it's got to change. And they have also said, we believe those leaders who are transparent, those leaders who are not trying to be something else, are not this kind of corporate suit. That's what we want. So you see them coming into the workplace and changing the definition of leadership. So what is it? Well, the first thing I want to tell you is that it's not one single definition. It's not this one thing, but there are different commonalities, if I could say that, different commonalities. Authenticity, this point to someone who's authentic, someone who is trustworthy. And then on the side there on the right, you can see that we've mapped out 4 key perspectives of authentic leadership. And the first one is intrapersonal. That means that the leader has a focus on what's going on beyond themselves. So focuses closely on the leader and what goes on within the leader. And then interpersonal, meaning follows, connects, relates to others within their circle. Developmental, that the authentic leadership is something that the leader can nurture. It's not something that's fixed, like trait theory, but it's something that leader can nurture and develop and grow, and so can anyone else. And then when you think about that last perspective, this comes from another kind of research body, and they said there's 4 particular aspects around authentic leadership that are important, especially when it comes to the developmental side. So self-awareness. Can you be self-aware and grow your self-awareness? If you can, then you have a shot at being an authentic leader. Can you internalize moral perspective? Do you have a moral compass within you that can help guide you? Do you have balanced processing? Meaning you can see the good and the bad, the pros and the cons of a situation. And then relational transparency. It's so important to be able to say, I need to tell you what I'm thinking. I need to give you the good news and the bad news, and do that in such a way that keeps that interpersonal balance in place. So other places or other approaches to authentic leadership from the practical approach. This is all on the practical approach. So you're going to hear, or in your chapter, if you haven't read it yet, you're going to hear about Bill George. And Bill George has a whole body of work around authentic leadership. And basically, there's the practical approach and the theoretical approach. And Bill George says on the practical side, there are 5 basic characteristics when it comes to authentic leadership. And so authentic leaders have, 1, a strong sense of purpose. They get it. They understand the why very, very much, and they talk about that. Second, they have strong values about the right thing to do. There's not any kind of iffy, wishy kind of thing. They stand for their values. Third, they do build trusting relationships with others, and that's key. They demonstrate self-discipline and act on their own values. That's 4th. And then 5th, they're sensitive and empathetic to the plight of others. So it's not just about them, but it's about others. And especially if you're working in a company, it's about your employees. And I'm going to give you some examples of some leaders who demonstrate that here in just a few minutes. So George also said there's more. There's more things here that kind of add up to being an authentic leader. So when we think about that, the practical and theoretical approach, staying on the practical, we talked about purpose, that quality of knowing what you're about and where you're going, your passion. If you have a deep-seated interest in what you're doing and you truly care about your work, that shows up. Your values, okay? An understanding of who you are, where you're going, and what the right thing is important, and behavior. And here I put the eyeball on this slide, because if we don't see it, then we don't believe it. So you can talk all you want, but we have to see the behavior that manifest, that shows us your values, your purpose, your passion. So you have to be able to behave and demonstrate, or else everything that you say is for naught. So authentic leaders absolutely show up with their behaviors. So more on the practical side. More things around what do authentic leaders exhibit or believe. So relationship, they believe in connections between 2 or more people are important. And where I work, that is kind of foundational. We lead with a relationship-based approach, meaning we start with words like, hi, how are you? We know the children's name. We know if something is up or down with someone. We don't immediately jump into a meeting. We make sure that everyone in the room is connected, and that we have referenced them by name, for example. Connection. So along with relationship, it's the bond actually by opening oneself up to others in mutual disclosure. So if you're going to share something about yourself, I'm going to share something about myself as well. It's that, how do I make a connection? I cannot be closed in. Authentic leaders often unlock who they are, and they share that. And believe me, it's scary for them too, but they know that if they unlock that, They can create these connections that are very important and move progress forward. Next one is self-discipline. It's this focus. It's this repetition. It's the determination that things will happen when I continue to be self-disciplined and focused on what needs to happen next or right, and kind of letting go of all of the other things that are maybe not so important. And then consistency, again, goes with self-discipline, that they're predictable in behaviors. They're people that we can say, I know what he would do. He would do the right thing. We know kind of their routines. We know how they would think. That is an authentic leader. They're not volatile. They're not unpredictable. They make it easier for us to work with them through that consistency. So again, following up on the practical approach, just two more things here. Compassion. Compassion is probably one of the bigger things that people notice of an authentic leader. They just have this high sensitivity to the plight of others. They open themselves up and they want to help others. So this could be anything from returning a shopping cart at a grocery store to helping someone who is in need with winter gloves. It's the small things. It's not necessarily the big things. This compassion shows up in writing a thank you note to an employee. It's just different ways, but people see it, they feel it. And then the heart, being very close to compassion. They absolutely can show the heart when they're speaking. They speak about their heart hurting. They speak about how this is good for others and more. So compassion and heart are absolutely practical approaches to authentic leadership. So we've talked about practical. And when I say practical, again, these are things that you probably can relate to. They resonate for you. Let's talk about the theoretical approach. And when we say theoretical, we think about, or I'm talking about the research behind authentic leadership. What does the research say when we describe authentic leadership? And first of all, again, it's a recent development in the research study. To have something just written in the last 20 years is actually new. It's just a baby, okay, as a theory goes. And so the first few articles were done in 2003 by Luthans and Avolio, and I think they hit on something in saying, you know what, we think there's a different kind of leadership style called authentic. And then after 9/11 and again, what I've discussed, the social kind of upheaval and some instability, especially in the US, people were looking for and naming authentic leaders without saying authentic leaders. And so the research began. And so when you think about what that actually is, authentic leadership, and I put the definition to the side and I tried to break it down because the book had a really long definition. So let me emphasize what's important to me on the right side. It's a pattern of leader behavior. Remember, a behavior, if I can't see it, then you're not authentic. You've got to not just think it, but it has to come out. So, and it has to be consistent. So pattern and behavior. It draws upon and promotes positive psychological capabilities and positive ethical climate. So that positivity is so important. It happens in the environment. Why? To foster greater self-awareness. So of the leader and of the followers. You internalize that kind of moral perspective or that compass. You're using it to guide your decisions so that you have balanced processing of information, meaning decisioning, and a relational transparency. Fancy way to say, I'm going to be honest with you. Okay, on the part of the leaders and working with the followers. Thus, fostering positive self-development. Everyone grows. I grow as a leader. You grow as a follower. That is authentic leadership. The authentic leader is in it for everyone. So hopefully that breakdown of the definition helps. Also on the theoretical approach, there's different models now, given the time since 2003. And the different models are really, they call out different aspects of authentic leaders. And so you see Gardner here on this slide saying, hey, we think it's a developmental process for the leader, meaning they can grow into this style and they learn from this style through self-awareness and self-regulation. So a little bit of emotional intelligence there, saying, are you aware that you're doing it? Can you stop if you don't like what you're doing? Can you grow that if you do? So self-regulation. Isles, Morganson, Nathrek, they said it's a little bit more complex than that, but definitely that happiness and well-being, the authentic leader cares about those two aspects of their followers. So when they emphasize their followers' happiness and well-being, they're likely an authentic leader. And then you had the original kind of researchers saying, hey, the model explains the developmental process of being an authentic leader. Their model says you too can be an authentic leader using this process. And so already you know a lot. You know that they said it's not something that you necessarily have to be born with to be an authentic leader. You can grow, and they've given you kind of the recipe to make that happen. So the theoretical approach, if you kind of had to summarize the research behind it, there's 4 components here, okay? The first one is, does the person have self-awareness? Self-awareness. And that means they have an awareness of their own values, their identity, their emotions, their motives, their goals. They really know themselves at the deepest level. So an authentic leader must have very strong self-awareness, okay? And when they know themselves, they have a kind of this clear sense of who they are and what they stand for. And so it anchors their business decisions. It anchors their actions every day. And again, that stability helps others trust them, helps others relate to them. The other component, internalized moral perspective, that is that self-regulatory process where you or I, as an authentic leader, we use our internal moral standards, our internal right-wrong meter to guide our behavior, so that when that outside pressure comes in, we don't let it overwhelm us. We have an internal regulator to make that happen. Balance processing, and this is, again, a self-regulatory behavior where we are looking at things, pros and cons again. We're looking at things objectively. We're exploring other people's opinions before we make a decision. We're avoiding bias. We're again getting other points of view. So balanced processing. But let's talk about relational transparency. So we think about relational transparency. It's about being open and honest in presenting your true self to others. And I don't know about you, but sometimes if I show up in a room and I don't know, half of the people or more, I'm like, okay, maybe I should come off suave or smart, or what do I do? That's not what an authentic leader would do. They are open and honest about who they are. They can relate to who they are. They know their feelings. They know their motives. They know their behaviors, and they are going to show up as themselves. Doesn't mean that they're going to disregard the situation or the room. It just means that they're confident that who they are is enough. So there are influential factors, and you can imagine what they can be, meaning there's things that play a role in who you are and thinking if you are enough, such as just physiological capabilities, like intellectual horsepower, moral reasoning. Do you have morals and values? And the life events that you grew up with, those will have a huge play into how that transparency is seen. Now, the researchers also said there are some positive psychological capacities, I said a while ago, like confidence, hope, optimism, resilience. And you see a lot of self-help books on each of these topics. And I thought that was really interesting. Are you hopeful? Are you optimistic? Do you have the confidence, or saying another way, the self-efficacy? I think I can do this. Or I think you can do this. Authentic leaders will express both. And then resilience, perseverance. Can you recover and adjust quickly when something goes unplanned? So these, from a theoretical perspective, the research says there are some capacities that authentic leaders have, more so than others, that make them authentic leaders. Hope, resilience, optimism, confidence. So The last two pieces are, I think, are the environmental piece, that those nurture pieces that absolutely kind of grow up and support authentic leaders, moral reasoning and critical life events. Let's talk about moral reasoning, first of all. And it's the capacity to make ethical decisions about issues of right and wrong and good and bad. And in my many, many years, do I believe that some folks have different ways that they make a moral reasoning decision? Absolutely. Yes. And it really comes down to, for me, critical life events. How were they raised? What happened in their lives that perhaps showed them that something was right or wrong, a justice or an injustice that affects their moral reasoning? Because those critical life events are so impactful, so incredibly impactful. So it could be anything. It could be a tragedy. It could be winning the lottery. It could be a religion. It could be so many different things. But all of these things roll up together to impact someone's authentic leadership style. So we spent a lot of time about what it is. What is authentic leadership? Let's talk about now how it actually works. So when we talk about how it actually works, it's interesting because you can already see how someone shows up as an authentic leader. They're purposeful, they're valued-centered, they're relational, they're self-disciplined, they're compassionate. But the tricky part is that that's the practical side. The theoretical side says, it's not that easy. It's not this prescriptive. You can't just show up and, with those 5 things and people are going to call you an authentic leader. And so the theoretical side says, hey, but you also have to have some self-awareness. You also have to have a moral perspective, that right, wrong. You have to balance how you make a decision. You have to be transparent in how you made that decision. And so while we may point to what we believe is an authentic leader, the theories also say there's a whole lot more to it, like a whole lot more grounding and foundation to how it actually works. And the other piece around the theoretical side is that the traits and attributes of an authentic leader happen over a lifetime. They're cultivated. They mature over a lifetime. That is one of the first leadership theories that has brought that forward, that this takes time to develop. And going back to critical life events, that could be a key reason that you have to experience life to show up as an authentic leader. So very interesting theory, as you can imagine, as it continues to evolve and show up in the workplace. Because when it shows up in the workplace, what we do know is that authentic leadership positively, let me say that differently, authentic leadership correlates positively or negatively directly to followers who thrive at work. Okay? Followers, employees who thrive at work. We also know that authentic leadership, there's a positive relationship between employee creativity and authentic leadership. That's kind of cool. And that authentic leadership increases hope in employees. So I hope you've had an authentic leader, or someone you would describe as an authentic leader at your workplace. So you can probably already guess some of the strengths of this particular theory. So let's think about that. When we think about the strengths of authentic leadership, it absolutely fills a societal need. We're looking for that leader who is trustworthy, who is transparent, who balances right from wrong. We're looking for that because the public distrust is increasing lately. So it's fulfilling that. The authentic leadership theory provides broad guidelines. It doesn't give you a precise kind of way to make it happen. And so it helps us kind of put people, or gives us this kind of way of saying, this person is probably an authentic leader. This person is someone I would follow, because the definition is so broad. And so similar to transformational and servant leadership, it has an explicit moral dimension. And so, again, what is right and good is important to us in leaders. And our prior leadership models didn't have a lot of that. Didn't say they had to be right and good, just said that they had to have a command style, or maybe they were born with it. This particular theory says, yeah, they must know right from good and good from bad. So they also understand their values, they understand why they do things, and they champion kind of the collective good for their followers. So those are the strengths. Some more, it does emphasize that you can develop this. You can become an authentic leader by paying attention. And none of the attributes that I've already shown you are rare. These show up in people when people are transparent, when they have that emotional intelligence to stop and think and really just ask themselves, how am I coming across? Am I doing that on behalf of others? So where does it go wrong? Where is it not supported? Well, the first big place is that one of the cornerstone researchers, his research is not fully substantiated. Okay, it's not, the whole theory is not built on an empirical base, meaning we can't repeat it. We can't, our research cannot validate it. Okay, has not been tested for validity, reliability, and more. It heavily relies on a given leader's personal experiences, and those vary so much. So it makes it really difficult to predict an appropriate course of action. Like, what would we, how could we tell many about how to do this? It lacks defined rules that may help followers make some not so good decisions. So you could be pointing to the wrong authentic leader, which leads to wrong decisions. So we need more results. We need more data. We need more research around this entire theory. More data to substantiate the theory and just really explain how the incremental variance between the different leaders, how is that adding value? How is that changing over time? So given that, it's suggesting that authentic leadership, just the approach, the ability to apply it is going to be low because you're kind of still shooting for the right kind of approach. While I've talked about what some of those characteristics are, we're still not sure. We're still not sure. And sometimes while authenticity is important, it could be counterproductive in some ways. Okay. So we've talked about the strengths and we've talked about some criticism, but how would you actually use this? And I've said it could be limited. Yes, sir. So because of the lack of research, you've got to be careful. You do have some common themes, okay? You do have some common themes. You know that, first of all, it can be learned. This leadership style can be learned. You know that there's this kind of overriding goal and mindset that these leaders are trying to do the right thing. So if you're trying to apply this, stress that in your communication, that I am searching to do the right thing. I want to do the right thing. Can you help me do that? And that matters. And then you also want to be sure that you include all of the critical life events that could happen to you, that could impact your authentic leadership style, because what has impacted you maybe in a positive way could be different for someone else. Maybe they don't see it as so positive. So sensitivity to these events and the awareness of their potential, not just for disagreement, but also for growth, is something that we've got to take into account. Some examples of authentic leaders that I wanted to bring to you in case you're like, okay, where's she going with this? Where are they exactly? Billie Jean King, just one of those authentic leaders. You know, she aligned her actions with her core values of equality, diversity, inclusion, and she committed for social change on and off the tennis court. She's a pro retired tennis champion. In the middle, you have Jacinda Ardern, who is the former Prime Minister of New Zealand. And her style of leadership was very empathetic, transparent, and direct communication during a crisis. Uh, Beside her is Howard Schultz, the CEO of Starbucks again. And what he has been able to do time and time again is place employees over anything else, over any other kind of goal in the company, by saying that if I show that I take personal responsibility for my employees, then I'm also going to show that I take personal responsibility for my company. And the employees have absolutely appreciated that. You have Barbara Corcoran, who is an investor and founder, especially in real estate, and she has shared about her, ups and downs and failures and more around the mistakes that she's made in life and how she got to where she is. You have Richard Branson in the middle, who has a very approachable kind of open door mindset when it comes to be authentic and telling his employees everything that's going on, really having little to no hierarchical barriers in his company. And then you have Nadella, the CEO of Microsoft, who has really transformed that company by emphasizing and focusing on empathy and a growth mindset with his company. So good examples for you. I hope this presentation has helped you understand authentic leadership, one of the more contemporary theories on leadership, and I think it's going to continue to evolve. Thanks for listening today. Have a great week.